2024 was another great year for the Metroidvania genre. There were incredible indie experiences like Animal Well, Nine Souls, and Bow Path of the Teal Lotus, but even AAA ones like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which was our pick for the best Metroidvania of 2024. However, 2025 has a lot in store for fans of the genre too, and here are the top 10 upcoming Metroidvanias for 2025, and let's see how many times Silksong gets mentioned. Let's get it out of the way first and rip it off like a band-aid. Silksong is without a doubt on this list and every other list for upcoming games, upcoming indie games, and upcoming Metroidvanias. One of the first pieces of content that I created about Silksong said that there was a good chance that it didn't release in 2022. I was right, but it also didn't release in 2023 or 2024 either. But for those who think that the silence isn't working, all you have to do is look at Google Trends to see that Hollow Knight Silksong has only grown in popularity over the years. I don't think this was the original intention from Team Cherry, but they are a very small team making quite possibly one of the most anticipated indie games of all time. The pressure is high externally, and I would bet that they are applying just as much pressure on themselves inside the studio to deliver an immaculate experience. As for why it'll be worth the wait, there is plenty of information that we already knew years ago, and we can only imagine what's been added since. Hollow Knight Silksong will feature crafting that, according to Team Cherry, could vastly change the experience. Hornet will also have hunting and quests that sound like they are going to go above and beyond what the original did. It sounds like quests will offer you a chance to use your wits to solve puzzles based on what you've seen on your journey, and hunting will see you track down rare beasts, which will likely come with a hefty reward. Hollow Knight featured over 150 different types of enemies, and years ago, it was revealed that Silksong would feature over 150 new enemies also. There was no mention of bosses, but based on how they are going above and beyond, you could expect that there will be over 50 bosses as well. Finally, there will be Silk Soul mode, which according to Team Cherry, will spin the game into a unique and challenging experience. It also wouldn't be a Metroidvania list without mentioning Silksong and Crowsworn. Back in 2024, I was given access to the Backers and Press exclusive demo, which was incredible. After spending a few hours with the Crowsworn demo, it might sound slightly sacrilegious, but it's now our most anticipated Metroidvania at the moment. Yes, even more than Silksong. There is no doubt that both of these games are likely going to be incredible, but I think it comes down to tonal preferences, and Crowsworn won me over. Crowsworn initially planned on having a December 2023 release date, but after their Kickstarter was a massive success, things evolved. Mongoose Rodeo raised more than 10 times the amount that they were expecting, with the initial goal being $125,000, and according to the studio, the level of quality isn't on the same scale anymore. I had to constantly remind myself that the demo contains areas that didn't make the final game, which begs the question, how good is the content that is in the final game? The demo feels clean and highly polished. The sound of your feet as you dash through dark puddles, the way that your shadow bounces off of certain elements in the background with its parallax environments, how tight the controls feel, and how weighty the combat is. Drawing from their Bloodborne inspiration, every single enemy is challenging. They react differently every single time, and it's just as easy to get overwhelmed very quickly from low-level mobs. Once again, none of this will be included in the final game, and the demo is representative of the state of the game at least a year or two ahead of its release. I'm over the moon as excited about Hollow Knight Silksong as most of you are as well. There is no doubt that after playing the demo, Crowsworn and Silksong both will have the juice. However, the tone of Crowsworn just resonates with me on a deeper level. It's grungier, it's more gothic, and it's more foreboding. The score of the game is constantly ominous and uneasy. It feels much more akin to dark experiences like Bloodborne and Darkest Dungeon. It's hard to put into words, but there is just a feeling that you have when experiencing this game. Mio, or Memories in Orbit, is being developed by 12 which translates to 12 Tens, who are now part of Focus Entertainment after being acquired back in 2021 after the release of their first game. This indicates a commitment to high-quality indie-style games similar to EA Originals program. A huge company, but a small project inside that wants to generate goodwill, give chances to original ideas, and has a much better chance at turning a profit, albeit a smaller one, due to the size and the scope. The studio's first game in 2020, which was also published by Focus Entertainment, was Shady Part of Me, a narrative-filled artistic puzzle platformer, and was beloved, with almost 2,000 reviews on Steam being overwhelmingly positive at 94%. PC Invasion called Shady Part of Me one of the best puzzle platformers of the year, and Screen Rant said it was delightful. 12 are also aware of how this game is going to draw comparisons to Hollow Knight's Silksong. The obvious comparisons are there from the beautiful hand-drawn 2D art, the genre, the female protagonist, and the high level of difficulty, but the studio says that they are convinced that Mio has a lot to give. In one of their recent devlogs, the studio has said not to let the beautiful and serene art style fool you, as the game is very challenging, but fair. As for the premise of the game itself, it all began with the concept of a Metroidvania with a science fiction hook. You play as Mio, a nimble robot with extraordinary abilities. You awaken aboard a spaceship lost in the sea of stars, and what happened aboard is unknown, but now the spaceship has become overgrown with lush vegetation and robots have begun to think for themselves. In a world inspired by paintings, comics, and anime, Mio is determined to understand what happened. One of the most strange episodes in Secret Level was the Pac-Man episode, because it was such a huge departure from the series that people had become familiar with since the 1980s. I appreciate the attempt to try something unique with the series, but I came away confused until the Game Awards 2024, when Secret Labyrinth was announced as a bold new direction for the franchise. I think financially, trying something radically different actually has a chance to work for Pac-Man, and if this game wasn't loosely based on the IP, people wouldn't even be talking about this side-scrolling adventure game from Bandai Namco. Players will take on the role of Swordsman Number 8, who awakens on a hostile alien planet. And if you haven't seen the Secret Level episode, you should, because it will explain what serves as a precursor to this game in 10 minutes much better than I can explain it. In the game, you will traverse a maze-filled world where enemies and puzzles, both old and new, will challenge you at every step. To survive, you will need to master combat, explore to uncover increasingly powerful abilities and skills, and conquer challenging bosses to discover their true purpose. The press release also said that Shadow Labyrinth will feature connections to other iconic Bandai Namco arcade titles. Heart Machine looks to have a very busy 2025 ahead of them. To begin with, Hyper Light Breaker is launching into early access in January, which will then likely be constantly supported and updated. But then, they will likely also be releasing Possessors, their new side-scrolling action-adventure collaboration with Devolver Digital. Heart Machine isn't the only studio on this list who is making what strongly sounds like a Metroidvania but has an aversion to labeling it as one. The Steam description certainly sounds like a Metroidvania, as you find and unlock a wide array of powerful weapons and upgrades to bolster your arsenal and explore previously inaccessible areas. Possessors takes place in a flooded megacity with stunning art and atmosphere, which is now two things that have become status quo for Heart Machine. According to the studio, Possessors is inspired by games like Inside, Signalis, and Control, as well as shows like Severance, and in true Heart Machine style, the game goes deeper than the surface meanings. Possessors is about relationships, and specifically the ones that hurt us, and how we navigate through them. Most Metroidvanias released are now reductively called Hollow Knight ripoffs or Silksong wannabes, which isn't fair to a lot of Metroidvanias that are trying new things. The good news is that Echo Weaver is nothing like Hollow Knight. Echo Weaver feels truly original due to its visuals and its time loop premise. The time loop is implemented in such a genius manner, as you have health, but you also have a time bar that tells you how much time you have left before your time loop is over. You then restart the cycle again, but this time with the information that you gained on your last loop. You'll discover shortcuts, where items are, and what paths aren't worth your time. In a unique implementation of the time mechanic, you'll also encounter blocked off areas that you can unlock by sacrificing a certain amount of your time bar, which is a great risk-reward proposition. The visuals and the premise are unique, and the time-traveling time loop games still feel like an underutilized genre. What is known is that the team behind Celeste and Towerfall know how to make a very tight, controlling, precision-based game, and it's now safe to assume that they will deliver another great feeling experience with Earthblade. What remains unknown is that EXOK Games will be able to match the emotional impact of the story of Celeste. In Celeste, the studio took on mental health and told the story in a very relatable way. In Earthblade, you play as a child of fate who is returning to Earth, and that is all that is known at the moment as far as the plot goes. As for the gameplay, EXOK Games are calling it an explore action platformer. But during an interview about Earthblade a few years back, they were asked if it was a Metroidvania, and the team basically confirmed that it was, but they don't love being boxed in by labels. Now, going by this statement, we can assume that it's going to have very big ambitions outside of the traditional Metroidvania scope, but will still feature a lot of familiar elements. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Breathtaking, hand-drawn, 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania platformer. From the team behind This Is the Police comes a Metroidvania platformer that looks stunning, which is due to the attention to detail and what the studio says is frame by frame drawn and colored without cutting any corners. The eternal life of Goldman takes place on a beautiful archipelago full of vibrant colors and ancient mysteries to solve. The eternal life of Goldman is dripping with inspiration from classic 16-bit platformers as you are on a mission to destroy an ancient deity, and to do so, you must unlock new powers on your cane that will help you explore the island to its fullest. The studio is also trying to avoid a lot of the pitfalls of the genre. It demands precision, but it's never grueling. It encourages exploration, but it doesn't have you backtracking, and it has a complex story, but it doesn't feign pretension. All of this is much easier said than done, but only time will tell. If there is at least one game on this list that people can't compare to Hollow Knight Silksong, it's Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Details are sparse on Metroid Prime 4 at the moment, with the official Nintendo page only saying the galaxy's greatest bounty hunter Samus will embark on a new mission in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, coming to Nintendo Switch in 2025. After that, we can go by assumptions that we can pick out of the trailer, as it does state that it is coming to the Nintendo Switch, which likely means that it will be a title that launches on both the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. Typically, the series doesn't sell well, as Metroid Dread, the Switch exclusive from 2021, was nominated for Game of the Year, and it became the best-selling title in the long-running franchise, but still only managed to sell just above 3 million. I think Nintendo have a chance for even better success with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, not only because Retro took over development from Bandai Namco in 2019, but also because it's launching on 2 systems simultaneously. One system is almost the best-selling console of all time with nearly 150 million, and the new system will also have people hungry to buy a few games alongside their new purchase. It's almost guaranteed to take over the mantle as the best-selling Metroid of all time, especially when prior to Dread taking over as the best-selling, the title that previously held that was original Metroid Prime with 2.84 million, a moniker that stood for nearly 20 years. Revealed at the Game Awards pre-show, Ninja Gaiden is a blending of both eras of Ninja Gaiden. The Game Kitchen, the team behind the massively successful Metroidvania series Blasphemous, is handling development while Dotemu is handling the publishing. Ragebound has not officially been called a Metroidvania, but I have to assume that since the Game Kitchen is developing the title, there will at least be Metroidvania-light elements involved. Ninja Gaiden was released in 1988 for the arcade as a beat-em-up and the NES as an action platformer, which is the version that most people are familiar with. The story of the NES original is about a ninja named Ryu Hayabusa who travels to America to avenge the death of his father, and in the process tries to stop an assassin from opening up a portal and unleashing an ancient demon onto the world. Ragebound tells the untold chapter of what happened when Ryu went to America, as you play as young ninja Kenji Mozu, who is also from the Hayabusa village and must now deal with an army of demons that has been released from another dimension. Ragebound combines that old school pixel aesthetic and action of the original, and then blends it with modern precision and layers of depth from the modern Ninja Gaiden titles. The hope is that Ragebound will honor the originals by including plenty of animated cutscenes, as they were a large part of why that game felt so special. The trailer featured some great animated cutscenes, which does bode well for the final product. Before leaving, if you enjoyed the video, all I ask is that you leave a positive or constructive comment. If you're unfamiliar, we're trying to cultivate a community full of positivity that's free from toxicity and negativity. People seeing great comments will encourage more people to do the same. That's all for today, but until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.